And Suzanne, Mark, Chris, probably Joe. All right. Super. Thanks everybody for being prompt. Happy Friday. I call this meeting to order on Friday, September 5th, 9:01 a.m. Thank you all for accommodating this ad hoc meeting. Um, First order of business is to review and adopt the agenda. Any comments, questions, motions? Let me make sure I can see everybody. Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Thank you, Lisa. Second, Cheryl, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, it's unanimous. We've got an agenda. All right, public comment. Would anyone from the public like to make a comment?
Good morning. My name is Joe Miller. I'm here with Novo Nordisk. We were here at the request of Dr. Sarah Finn, who is the director of the Weight Management Center for Dartmouth Health. She was looking to testify or at least speak with the organization about the decision to drop GLP-1s for weight management. I don't see her here at the moment. We were here in a supporting role, but with that being said, her not being here, if there is anything that we could bring to the table here to discuss, that decision or provide some other supporting information from a landscape perspective, I would certainly welcome that. I would just say that my role with Novo Nordisk is to work with the payers. And so I'm in close contact with, for example, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Vermont. If there were any there's Dr. Finn. How are you, Dr. Finn? So obviously we'll just defer to her. And then if there are any questions after that, again, we're in a supporting role. So I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Finn, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me come. I am the obesity medicine section chief for Dartmouth Health. And so I'm here because I heard through the grapevine from my patients that this was happening. And so I want to be here as an obesity expert and who takes care of patients with obesity all day to say what I can do to offer help with this really hard decision. And not only are you making this hard decision, but across the state and across the country, other companies are making the decisions. So happy to talk about that as we go forward.
Thank you for the offer. Appreciate it. And normally public comment is not a time for discussion, unfortunately. But I do, well, let's get through public comment. Elizabeth, welcome.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Honigsberg. I work with Dr. Finn at Dartmouth Health, and I'm just joining as well, given I am the full-time physician at the Weight Center, and my patients brought these changes to my attention. And I'm just here, again, if public comment is not on the agenda today, that's fine, but I'm here to learn about this process and see what I can do to support both companies and patients as we navigate this ever-changing landscape. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. Is there any other, we are in the middle of public comment. Is there any other members of the public who want to comment? All right, yeah.
I would just ask one more thing. If the committee would, care to have offline meetings after this about the landscape, like for example, I'm not sure if you are aware, but semaglutide, which is the ingredient in Wegovy, the anti-obesity medicine, as well as Ozempic, has been chosen for the Medicare negotiations in the IRA. And so we know that cost is obviously a factor right now, looking at the minutes and the discussions that you previously had. But we did want to bring to your attention that really close to the end of this year, late October, early November, a new price will be published for this medicine, which will be significantly less than what you're seeing now. And so we did want to bring that to the committee's attention, in that if cost is the driver, we do have other options available, which we would love to, share under different circumstances, and be able to share some of that with you in the interim, but also think about, or ask the committee to think about bridging to 2027, where the cost of these medicines will be reduced dramatically, and what potentially your organization would be willing to do in that case. So looking forward to 26 and 27. So I appreciate that opportunity and would welcome that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think, I'll ask the VEHI management team to keep me honest. We have been talking about the GLP-1s and the coverage for that over the last few meetings. We did gather and we had the staff gather information. We did hear public comment and testimony by even some people close to the board. And so we did consider carefully the implications, the health versus the financial implications. And we did vote on it at the last meeting. So it is not up on the agenda for today. But I will note that the board did discuss that this is not a final decision, that we are absolutely looking at the future, that we know the benefits of the drug. And so we do look forward, if there are changes in the pricing, that the board is open to changing that decision.
I'll put my contact information in the chat, and then we would obviously welcome any opportunity, to have an offline meeting. Obviously not looking to hijack today's meeting, but have an offline meeting with you folks to share what's coming later this year, what's coming in 2026, 27, and present, a broader scope in addition to whatever Dr. Finn and Dr. Hornisberg wanted to present. And obviously they're welcome to be at that meeting as well. So thank you for that opportunity.
And I would just like to say, I would love to be part of that. We've been part of the Dartmouth Health decision for the coverage of GLP-1s for patients with obesity and cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes and fatty liver disease, and so sleep apnea. So I would very much like to share my experience of what we've learned at Dartmouth Health about making this hard decision. If so, you could include me on that discussion. I'd be happy to be part of it, and Dr. Honingsberg, and we'll put our contact information in the chat.
Appreciate that.
Yes, and I do want to say it was brought to my attention that for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Massachusetts, they projected, $1 billion cost in 2026 if they continued coverage with this medication. And so with that in mind, regardless of the benefits, I mean, that's untenable for any insurance company. And so I've been really thinking about how we as experts could think about treating the sickest of the sick and working with insurance companies on limiting coverage, step therapy, really thinking about this strategically, because that's untenable cost. $1 billion for one therapy type. So if there's any way that we could engage with you and other insurance companies to think about this strategically, keeping even if we made finance the priority, because that just floored me. So again, thank you for having us, and if we could be part of discussions in the future, that would be great.
Andrew?
I just wanted to ask, we can't really have a offline conversation, but they could have a conversation with management. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So I would ask, the board depends on the expertise of our leadership team and our staff to gather most of the information and present a recommendation or information for the board's consideration. So yeah, that was going to be my my direction, is reach out to the staff and leadership team.
Can I just clarify? Would you ask us to reach out to your staff and leadership team, or what's the process?
Bobby Joe, you have Dr. Finn's information. You can reach out. Is that all right?
Yes, I do. I see it in chat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate your time, especially doctors taken away from your patient care. So we appreciate you spending the time to advocate for your patients.
We appreciate you guys. We understand this is a hard decision, but we just value working together. So thank you for keeping us in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up on the agenda is approve the meeting minutes from June 17th and 28th. Did I miss that? I was looking at this last night. Is that part of the board packet?
Oh, no. I completely missed that, actually. You just said
So did
that.
I, my first
Wow.
read.
My
So
goodness, I'm so sorry.
that's all right.
Um,
So we'll just table that until the
We'll
next
table that
meeting.
till next week meeting. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. All right. Next up, review and accept FY25 year-end financials. So we got 15 minutes, and I'm sure this will bleed into the next agenda item where we talk about our net position and the DFR submission. So with that, I'll hand that off to you, Chris.
Great, thank you. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Are you able to see the financials?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And you might be missing a couple pages of that as well, because it was in different tabs. So I will include that as well in the updated packet.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
I think what was in the packet was just the memo and the budget to actual. Okay, but I can walk you through the information anyways. So overall, this is kind of crazy to say, but we ended the year with a $4.76 million loss. And when you first look at that, you know, there's part of me that was glad to see that number at the bottom. It's kind of crazy to say that you're happy with a $4.7 million loss, but honestly, that's sort of the place we are, you know, after the last few years with the significant losses we've been seeing. Now, there's some caveats to that, and I want to talk about that when we get into the income statement here. But basically, we're looking at, you know, we ended with a net position of 35.3 million down here. And the health program has 28.9 million in net position after absorbing that $4.3 million loss on health. That brings us to a 7.8% position ratio. So as a reminder, that's the ratio of our net position, which is that 28.9 million, compared to annual expenses for FY25. So that's where we're at, 7.8. I'm going to get into that more in the next part of the conversation. So I'm going to leave that there for now and keep going with the financials. You know, as you can see, cash is down 14%. That makes sense. You know, we're having losses. We're having to pay these claims. We expect the cash is going to go down. The concern on that, well, there's a couple of concerns on that, but one of the concerns, the immediate concern to the financials is that the less money we have, the less interest and dividends earnings we have. And, you know, we are definitely having some good gains the last few years on interest and dividends and market change. So as that erodes, so will that money coming in. The other receivables for health have to do with the UVM settlement. They're up significantly. And I think that's pretty much it. Maybe some money due from the Agency of Education at this point as well. We have our fixed asset now, which is our new PATH website. So you'll be seeing assets and depreciation there. Most of our liabilities, as always, are claims liabilities. Our claims liability is actually down 6% from last year. So that's good going into the year. If that IBNR holds, which I believe it will. We always have some prepaid contributions. That's the member money coming in prior to the end of the year for next year's premium. And then some, you know, basic accounts payable and some other liabilities. So that's basically the balance sheet. Any questions on that before I go to the income statement? And I can't see everyone, so do speak up because I'm not necessarily going to see your hands. Okay, so going on to the income statement, this is where the meat of the financial presentation really lives. You know, let's start with dental. Okay, so when you come down through, we had contribution revenue of 8.8 million. We had our claims expenses. We have our normal overhead expenses, paying BizBit, the Vermont NEA, a bit of travel. We allocate a bit of the wellness down here at 120,000. to the dental program because they support both health and dental in their initiatives. So we came down to operating expenses of 9.9 million as compared to 8.8 million in revenue. So that left us with $1 million loss, offset by 582,000 in investment earnings. So we ended with a loss of 480,000. And that's fine because when we budgeted, we know that we have a lot of money in the dental program. So when we set the rates, we were estimating that we would use 728,000 from our reserves to cover this year. And we used 480. So we came in a little bit better than projected, but actually achieved the goal of not continuing to add to the reserves on the dental program. So that's all good news there. Everything trended as expected. On the health program, again, you can see here's our revenue, 363,000, 363 million. We have our claims expenses of 359 million. So you can see right there, pretty much our claims eat up our entire revenue stream. What helped us, and this is an anomaly, and this is important. This is a really important. This is like the one key point. If you can walk away today, I want to make sure that this makes sense to everybody. We got very lucky. When we come down and we see this 7.3 million or $7.2 million loss before investments, that could have been easily $4 million higher and would have been based on the rates that were in place. That $4 million is two things. We have the reserves that the actuary set at the end of every fiscal year, the IBNR. And then we true that up to actual at the end of the following year. So for FY24, the reserves that were set were $2.1 million too high. So that's a credit that comes forward onto this financial statement. But it's really related to the FY24 activity. So that was a credit, and we'll take it, and that's great. But we can't count on that, okay? That was a one-time anomaly. The other 1.9 million is reflective of the UVM settlement, which we're going to discuss later, but that was the estimate. The best estimate at that time was 1.9 million. And so, again, that one-time settlement related to 2022, 23, I think it was, maybe 21, 22, but I think it's 22, 23. So those two items are basically adjusting entries for prior periods. So if you think about what the rates that we had in place for FY25, those are one-time things, and the rates did not cover us as much as we were expecting. So that easily could have been an $11.3 million loss and would have been based on the rates that we had in place. So as we go into our next cycle, we really need to remember that we are running on a pretty bad trajectory here. Any questions on that? Okay, so then the other piece is investments, and we had great investments here again. I honestly,
Chris, I have a question.
Yes.
So the UVM settlement thing, it's a one-time thing right now, but is that going to continue in the form of lower costs because of that settlement? Are we going to be seeing lower costs out of that moving forward?
I don't think there's a direct correlation.
Yeah, I think, Lance, that it'll be built into our rate renewal by Blue Cross based on what the hospital budgets come out to be. So
right.
I don't think
so it's a one-shot deal with the money, but are they going to have to reevaluate what they've been charging, and they're going to have to come in with some lower rates? Is that
I may be wrong, but I think what it means is Blue Cross expected it to be X, built that into our rates. UVM, through whatever means they did, charge more. So we were already setting our rates based on what we thought it should be, and they were taking more.
Mm-hmm.
So this just gets us back to where the rates were that we thought they should be. Does that sound right, Bobby, Joe, and Mark? Chris?
Yeah, I'd like
Yeah.
Mark to weigh in too, just from the hospital perspective.
Well, what we know based on Blue Cross's analysis is that we, just VEHI, would have been overcharged based on their methodology for FY22 and FY23 to the tune of roughly $6.6 million. Okay. Blue Cross is offering to, as you know, again, we'll talk about this later, pay us 1.9 million of a settlement. The actual amount was 12 million. So looking to the future, Lance, what we should expect is that most immediately we'll see hospital budgets being announced for next year, which will impact our rate setting profoundly. They'll be announced on September 15th. We, fingers crossed, are expecting lower rates this year for a variety of reasons. And that going forward should be very significant for us. This payment in and of itself doesn't impact our claims going forward or what we'll be paying the hospitals going forward. It is a way of trying to make right an overage that occurred in 22 and 23, if that's helpful.
Yeah, I'd like to just add 2 points to that, Mark, just to be clear. When you said the rates will be lower this year, I don't think that the UVM rates will be lower than they are currently. They just won't go up as much as usual. Is that?
Yes, thank you. That's a good clarification.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I don't think they'll be going down, actually.
The hospitals have submitted their budgets, and Green Mountain Care Board has to determine whether they're sound submissions or whether they should reduce those submissions or increase them. And I think they're definitely going to decrease them, but it's just a question of what the amount is.
I think
The other
what-
clarifying point was the 6.6 million was if Blue Cross received everything back that they presented that they were deserving from UVM. 6.6 would have been tied to VEHI, but based on the agreement that was actually made, VEHI's brought down to what was it, Mark?
2.8.
2.8 million. So the delta between the 2.8 and the 6.6 is really kind of out of our control, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But so I just wanted to kind of make those 2 points.
I think when we get into the non-public session, we can go into a little bit more detail about how the numbers were arrived at, and I just don't think we should do it now during public.
So I guess I want to communicate here when I talk about rates is, as they've just said several times, this is related to 22, 23, not 24, not 25, so I'm talking about the financials looking at the 25 rates, there's no relief there. This is an adjusting entry for several years prior. We ended up with, and the other thing that is somewhat of something that we necessarily can't count on every year is the 3 million gain on investments. So, when I say we had some really positive luck this year, I think part of it is the investments. That it isn't luck. I mean, we are invested strategically, but there is a lot of volatility in the market, as we all know right now. And that continues right now with everything that we're seeing. So in the, more in the broader market than what I'm seeing so far on our impact with our Vanguard funds, but there is that potential. And with everything that's going on in the marketplace, in the nation, in the world, we can't necessarily rely on that we're going to receive $3 million every year in investment earnings. So that brought us to, like I said, a pretty decent place of a $4.3 million loss. I mean, I would love it not to be a loss one of these years, but I do want to make sure that everyone, thinks about that and thinks about those factors that I just mentioned. The prior period adjustments of 4 million, the investment earnings of 3 million, and really look at this and digest this and understand that the rates are not covering. If you come back up here to the first point I made, 363 million in contributions, 360 million in direct claims. Not even mentioning assessments, which we have no control over, 5.6 million that we pay to the state of Vermont. Almost all of that goes to the state of Vermont. the reinsurance, and then our fixed costs. So just just want to communicate the results, but I want to understand. I want everyone to absorb the caution that I'm saying when I'm reporting these. And when we started this year, and I'll get into this more in the next one, but when we started this year, we were expecting a gain. We keep trying to add to net position when we set our rates, and we're keep being behind. I'm going to move over to the budget to actual, and I'm not going to go through the entire detail here. Overall, as far as budget, we did fine, except for claims. Of course, the operating expenses, we ended the year 186,000 under budget for general operating expenses and $76,000 under budget for wellness expenses. So the expenses within our control, while they're not significant to the bottom line, were kept well under control. And I did want to point out that you might look at the wellness expenses and say, well, okay, how can we say we're under? Because this shows that we spent 2.6 million and this shows that we budgeted 2.4 million. That is after removing the AOE initiatives, the 318,000 here. That is reimbursed completely by the Agency of Education. But that has the offsetting revenue up here. We have to AOE revenue and then AOE expense down below, just because that's the way accounting standards work. So any questions on the financials before I move over to the bigger conversation about net position? All righty. I'm going to bring up another screen here. All right. So I'm going to talk for a minute and then I'll bring that back up. So DFR, as I mentioned when I was doing the financial presentation, we're at 7.8% of net position. We have a target of 15%. So we're at 7.8. So we're almost half of where we're supposed to be at this point. This has been declining year after year. And DFR is absolutely watching this. They talk to me almost every month when I send in the monthly financials to them that they receive. They want to know what we're doing, how we're going to combat this, how we're going to rebuild this net position. Our policy says that it doesn't require regulatory review until we get to 6% or less. It says from the 9 to 6% range, we need to come up with a plan. It says in the policy at 6%, we need to provide it to DFR. DFR wants it now. They don't care what our policy says, and they can have whatever they want, and absolutely we will provide it. They are extremely concerned. And so whatever we propose and whatever we do in this next rating cycle, we really need to take that into consideration. DFR needs to approve this. So even if we feel one way or another, we have to pass the DFR test. And we have never, in my recollection, been under this kind of scrutiny, financial scrutiny. And I've been with the company since 2001. So I just want to really make that clear that while we're making our decisions, we do have this regulatory body who expects us to make a significant change. And we're not going to get away with, oh, we're going to add 1 or 2% to try and help bring this back. Now, I'm not saying we bring back 15% back to 15% in 1 year, but we need to make a significant dent in this. They are not going to accept it any other way, especially because, and this is what I want to show you. You know this, but I want to show it in a different way. We've talked about pieces, components of this over time, but I kind of want to put it all in one place. This is the history. This is where we've been. So this is FY23. So going back 3 years. When the original rate was set, we expected we were going to add 6.5 million to our net position, and we would end with a ratio of 20%. When those projections were revised 1 year later, we thought, oh, well, now we're going to basically have a break-even year, 523,000, leaving us with 18.4%. This is all before investments, by the way. This entire, other than just showing you what we did on investments. We ended the year with a $7.1 million loss at 15.2%. So bottom line, we were off by 13.6 million. When we set those rates compared to where we ended, we were off by 13.6 million. And 5% below where we thought we would be on a target for our net position ratio. Any questions before I flip over to the other fiscal years? Is everybody comfortable with the flow? Okay. So flip to FY24. We set the rates. We thought we were going to have a $3.3 billion gain, which would leave us at 15%. 1 year later, it looks worse, 7.7 million loss, 11.5%. We had another look at that year. Then it was a $12.6 million loss. We'll be at 9.8. The actual $15.2 million loss, and we're at 10%. So we went in saying, okay, we're going to have a $3.3 million gain and end at 15%. We ended with a $15.2 million loss and 10%. Again, a swing of $18.5 million from where we thought. FY25, same story. $11.8 million we thought we would earn to rebuild our net position. We'd be at 12.7%. Again, we've had some revisions. Every revision looks worse. Landed at a $7.3 billion loss and a net position of 7.8%. So you can see that for 3 years now, we're looking at 13.6 off, 18.5 off, 19.1 off. So when we go into FY26, we are saying that we were going to, when the rates were set, which we know we can't be now because we're nowhere near the net position base where we are, we were going to have a $15.7 million gain. Now the revisions say we're going to have a $3.3 million gain and be at 7.9. I've done July financials. We lost $3 million in July. Now, maybe that comes back around, but I was really hoping to see us heading into FY26 with a positive July after we raised the rates as significantly as we did last year. Now, GLP-1s are still in the mix. However, that's still, I was like, yeah, 3.3 million loss. That doesn't make me feel very confident. So when we talk about our rates this year, and when we go into our, I'm going to stop the share for a minute so I can see you all. So when we go into our rates this year and our rate setting, I really want to ask the board to think about this in two significantly different buckets. There are two components to setting our rates, and they need to be looked at independently. Blue Cross Blue Shield is going to come back with what we need for rates, taking into consideration hospital budgets, our GLP-1 coverage changes, the changes to Humira, all of those factors. They will be incorporating all of that into what they come up with our indicated rates. That's what will be on the table. What we do with our net position and surplus is a completely different mindset. It needs to be a completely different calculation. We need to think about it independently, because this is what we need to report to DFR. This is what we need to make sure that we are covered so we are financially stable. We need to be careful, because it's not only saying, okay, we're going to add X percent to rebuild our net position, but based on the last 3 years and potentially the year we just started into, they've all been significantly off from the rate setting. So I feel like we need to buffer ourselves, because we cannot have another year where we're off by $18-19 million. We just can't. We can't take it. So hopefully, we have a better handle on trend, and this GLP-1 calculation, which I know was a big factor in why our trend was off, will help. And the hospital budget relief will help, so that maybe we won't have those kind of variances and the actuaries will be closer to target. But I can't guarantee it. And these numbers are so big. Like when you look at the financial statements and you see the variance on claims, it's only like 2%. In an actuarial world, 2% is not that far to be off. But 2% is a huge amount of money to us. So we really need to not only think about that we need to rebuild our surplus, but we also need to think about that we might be off this year. We might be off at FY27. So we need to make sure that we've covered ourselves. So I can't sit here at this moment and give you a recommendation yet as to what we need to do, exactly the percentages, because as I mentioned, the ratio is your net position as a relation to expenses. Well, we don't know that. We don't know yet what our FY26 expenses are going to be updated, which we will have soon. By the October meeting, we should have that. We also don't know what our FY27 expenses are. And that's what the ratio is that I'm calculating off of. We need those numbers. We need a better estimate for FY26. We need an estimate for FY27 in order for me to tell you this is going to get us to 12.9 or this is going to get us to 12.5. But I can tell you that we are probably looking at needing to add 6 or 7%. This is my gut, but don't hold me to this. But we are in that range. We are over 5%. Would be I know my recommendation is going to be to add over 5% to our rates, whatever they are, to bring hopefully rebuild our net position, but at least to stop the backward slide we're having. It would take 5%, just one more thing. Yeah. It would take 5% to build about $19 million in rough numbers. That's our variance. That's what we've been seeing the last couple of years. We've been off by $19 million. 5% would cover that.
Chris, I'm going to ask you a question, then I want to open it and make sure that the board has a chance to ask you questions and discuss.
Yeah.
Is there anything that VEHI can do to rebuild net position other than add additional percentage points to our rate increase?
I don't think so right now. I mean, I think VEHI, we've made the GLP-1 decision. We're trying to look at all these other initiatives. We're trying to, later on the agenda, we're looking at, looking at a contractor to look at pharmacy benefit management. But these are all things that are not going to happen immediately. Mm-hmm. Like they aren't going to affect what we're doing right now in July and August. Some of them might affect FY27, but a lot of them are out a bit and will take time. So at this point, we have to do something. And DFR is not going to accept, we'll get there in 3 years. that's not going to be acceptable from them, from their perspective. I know this.
And Bobby Joe put in the chat, should
Yes.
our plan be multiple year plan on how to rebuild?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one concept that I was already thinking about, like as part of that multi-year plan, is there is this gets a little complicated. Hopefully I explain this well. If you think about it, even if we have a break-even year every year, as our expenses go up, our ratio goes down. Even if we had a completely zero bottom line, no loss, no gain, because expenses are going up and it's a ratio to expenses. So we need to start now building in like 1% per year as part of annual expenses, just to cover that inflationary factor to keep this ratio from eroding. As a board, we used to do that. A few years ago, it was taken out of the calculation, and it needs to go back in.
Yeah, I'm gonna start to take some other questions, because I want to make sure that the board and staff have a good discussion on this. Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, you asked, could something else be done? And the answer is fewer members. If that, I mean, that's really the only way it comes down, because that lowers expenses. If all of a sudden, they decided to redo the school system in Vermont and we lost 2,000 lives, that would change it. But it's all a ratio, like Chris said. So there's really not much you can do.
Andrew?
Well, I guess, and I'm just thinking of budgets and taxpayers and all this stuff. I mean, the big thing here is, like, I'm already getting hammered over rates and people asking what the rates are going to be, and and how that's going to impact budgets. And then if you start to take into consideration, the big beautiful redistricting piece here, that if that were to go through, the next piece is a foundational formula which will set budgets. Like, we will be getting like $15,000 a kid or some number like that. And so the taxpayers will not have the ability to just vote in a budget or not vote in a budget. So that will have an impact. And that's all supposed to go in, and Cheryl, correct me if I'm right, like FY27, or at FY28, if it is approved. And if this redistricting goes through, they are projecting the possibility of a 20% reduction in teaching in staff because of closure of schools and loss of superintendents, loss of business managers, so
enrollment, student
yeah,
enrollment
loss of enrollment, yeah. So that's going to make the pool smaller, but that's also going to mean less revenue coming in, right? So I mean,
less
it's
expensive. So
anyway.
All right. Thank you for that, Andrea. Yeah, it is a scary prospect. Other questions or comments from board members?
I'll just add in there, Mike, real quick. I actually don't think it's going to go through, but I'm not a doom and gloom kind of person, but I also want to be prepared.
I mean, I don't live in a vacuum. I do understand that there are a lot of pressures. I just also know that what the reality is when I look at these financials year after year after year. And like I said, I've never had conversations with the FRL like I'm having these days. And so it's just the reality. And that's why, I know GLP-1s was a hard decision, but we had to make it. We had no choice.
Cheryl, did I see you raise your hand?
yeah. So I did just want to make sure I understand. I mean, when DFR is asking for a plan on how we're going to address this, they're basically asking for how much are we prepared to build into our rate increase an amount to replenish our reserves. Is that, I mean,
Yes, yes,
there's
along
really
with a lot of
basically
the
nothing
historical and the
else.
background that I'm giving you. I mean, they're doing these kinds of analysis as well. So, you know, we can, if we just come in and say, okay, we're going to add 3%, you know, last year we've added 2%, we've added 2.6%. If we just come in and say we're going to add 3%, that's not enough. That's not enough of a plan that they want. They want to understand why, how we think this is going to actually work. They want to know that, you know, they're very aware of where we thought we would be when we set the rates for the last 3 years and where we ended. So you know, they do really want the multi-year plan and how we're going to sustain this moving forward.
Okay. And on Andrew's point about the redistricting, you know, that is all in play. The first year that the new districts are operational is July 1 of 28. So it's the FY 29 budget building year. It's the first year they operate. They get formed on July 1 of 27. So there's like a year of formation. So it's still the old districts operating, which is my understanding in 28, but 29, it's the new world is in place.
But Cheryl, isn't it that this is the last budget build year? If everything goes through, this is the last budget build where it would go to the taxpayers to vote on a budget, because
I think we have one more year. I think we've got two.
Okay.
I think we have to build the 20. I think locally we have to build the 27 budget, and I think we have to build the 28 budget. But you know what, Andy, those are good questions, and it's clear there's confusion, and we have a BASBO meeting coming up, and I'll make sure that we all get that get our understanding of that all worked out. So I've got good information on that.
I'm going to write that sentence down. It's clear there's confusion.
Yeah, right.
That says it all about what's going on.
Right.
Clearly.
So the ask of the board, just to make clear, the ask of the board is to get it in our heads that in October, when we do this rate setting, we're going to get the projections. We're going to be mindful that our projections were off the last few years. And we're going to have to add in additional percentage points to refill the net position. And that'll be somewhere in 5, 6, 7%, somewhere in that neighborhood.
I believe so, yes.
And we all know that's going to be a bitter pill for the school districts and taxpayers.
And, you know, hopefully the indicated rates are decent. You know, that's what's going to incorporate the legislative changes, the work that the Greenmount Care Board's doing. But again, a lot of that's out a year or two. So,
but I mean, you're showing us, Chris, how, you know, despite our good intentions in setting those rates, the mark is being missed significantly, and that is something to really consider when we set the rates. Like, do we actually need to look at the rates and build into that just because we've been missing the mark so consistently over the last 3 years? Build in something to anticipate that and build in to replenish the reserves. I mean, that all sounds super scary, but that's what you showed us, is that we keep missing it. And
that's what I'm afraid of. And that's why I showed this. You totally keyed into what the message I was trying to give. And that's where I'm coming up with the 5%. 5% is $19 million.
And so, I don't see anything other than what we just did with the GLP-1s. there's nothing else significant that we can count on at this point when we set the rates that we could hang our hat on to say, well, we could be more aggressive in setting the rate, meaning setting it lower. I don't think we have anything that we can count on that would make us feel comfortable about doing that, or at least not make me comfortable about doing it based on what we've seen. Because when will we have to make that decision? October?
October.
Yeah,
Yeah.
21st.
So that's like just over a month from now. I don't see what we'll be able to count on that will make us feel that we could do anything else but
Right.
build in even more just because we've been so far off the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mark?
it's scary. I mean, I think I was thinking about the actuaries, you know, when I was ready to do this presentation, and I guess what I will say is that, you know, there's a part of me that says, well, you know, are we with the right actuaries? You know, should they have done better? But nationally, the actuaries are blowing it. And also DFR's actuaries, they have independent reviews. And when we file our rates, there's an independent review of another actuarial firm. I think it's Milliman on the DFR side. So they agreed, with what the actuaries were proposing every time, because if they didn't, they would have come back and said, no, we think you're a few $1 million off. So yes, Cheryl, that is one of the biggest concerns in the pits, and I get a pit in my stomach when I think about it, because in prior years we were close. I mean, we might be off a little bit, but we've never been off like this. And to have this 3 years in a row, it's scary. It's scary.
Mark?
Yeah, the pit in the stomach feeling is certainly justified. On the positive side of the ledger, in addition to the GLP-1 decision, the legislature's action to cap the prices of infusion medications should be a very big advantage for us as well going into rate setting. We know that we would have saved, I think it's a little over $11 million had that cap been in place a year earlier. So we should see some significant savings there. And I want to reiterate that the hospital budget setting is going to be very impactful, because that's where we spend most of our money. And the signs coming out of the Green Mountain Care Board at present, and also from DFR, is that they expect these hospital budgets to be much lower than they have been historically. Again, so that should also be something in our favor. It will definitely be in our favor. The question is, and again, Chris has alluded to this, just how much. And further down the road, but potentially not that far down the road, is if we decide to carve out our PBM program. There could be as much as a 15% savings there as well. That's not immediate, but it is, again, it's not that far down the road if we choose to exercise that option. So there is some hope there, as difficult as the numbers are at present.
All right. Any more questions or comments on the net position? What we're looking at for October? Okay.
So do we have a November meeting as well? Probably not, right?
No,
Don't.
it's the first Tuesday in December.
Okay. Because the report to DFR, I mean, if we go to the 6%, if we're looking at the policy, what it says is 45 days. So that would be like November 15th would be the due date to DFR. Since we're not below the 6%, I don't know if they'll totally hold us to that, but I think a lot of our plan we will want to develop in that October meeting, so that can go to, so that the board has input on what our communication is to DFR.
Chris, is that once we have the information from Blue Cross of what they indicate our rates should be, is that something that the management team can come up with a pretty close draft to bring forward to the meeting on the 21st.
That's what I would like to try to do. Yes. Yes.
And if need be, we can always have a quick special meeting to approve a plan, a formal plan to submit to DFR. Right. I think that this is a crucial matter. Like this might be the most important submission we have other than our regular rate setting in the time that I've been on the board. So I know that we're all taking this very seriously. And so if we do need another quick meeting, we can do that.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll
Wait,
try.
tell us again, what's the date that this is there a due date to DFR?
Well, our policy says it's 45 days after the financial statements. So that's November 15th.
Okay.
Okay. But that says that if we're below 6%, which technically we aren't. So, but
I'm asking, is DFR giving us a date?
oh, DFR would like it as soon as possible. Like
Okay.
I feel like I'm kind of putting them off to the rate setting cycle. And once we set our rates, I know that the very next day I'm going to have a phone call from DFR saying, so now how are we doing on the plan? So they would have loved to see the plan 6 months ago. Okay.
Okay.
So, so we need to, I want to make sure that we come up with a good plan and that we put our best foot forward and it's a thoughtful plan and we don't just throw something together. But, time is of the essence too. Yes.
I've never seen them this keyed in, as Chris said. They've
No.
never been so focused on us as they are. And they've also got Blue Cross to worry about, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chris, for leading us through this and prepping us for the hard discussion in October.
Thank you.
And being as I had a boss who called himself the meat shield for DFR. Andrew?
I just have a quick question, just so I'm like, what are the potential outcomes here? Is like, if we don't meet the things, is it shutting VEHI down? Is it a takeover? Is it like, what are the potential outcomes?
Well, I can see DFR just coming back and saying, no, we reject your rate filing. You need to add, they could mandate us to add 5%. They're not going to try and shut us down at this point. They're going to try to make sure that we stay financially solvent. So they could just, that's what I see their move would be. If they're not happy with our plan and they're not happy with what we say, they're just going to come back and say, no, we need this.
Yeah, I've actually been through this in another state, in another program, not health, where a pool was going under and the DFR of that state, basically just took over and said, we will now make the decisions.
But we're many steps away from that.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah,
We want to avoid that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's generally, DFR is not going to let a VEHI go under on their watch.
All right. Any last comments? Scary thoughts? Okay. All right. So let's move on. Thank you again, Chris, and
You're
thank you
welcome.
to the board. So now we're going to proposing to move into executive session to talk about the Blue Cross contract and the settlement from the UVMMC and Blue Cross. So I have a motion. I'm going to put this in the chat. So I'm going to ask for a motion. Let's see if I can do this. Motion to enter executive session under 1 VSA 313A because premature general public knowledge would put VEHI at a substantial disadvantage to discuss contracts and pending or probable civil litigation. Could I get someone? Thank you, Cheryl, for that motion. I have a second. Thank you, Andrew. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor of moving to executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Bobby Joe, are you prepared technically to do this or you need my help?
I can either, well, I think you were going to I can pause the recording. That is an option, or you said that we could do a breakout room.
Yeah, let's do a breakout room. And pause the recording. That way, if somebody from the public joins. So may I have a motion to leave executive session?
Move to come out of executive session.
Excellent. Thank you, Lance. Second by Cheryl. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Next up is status update on the PBM RFP. We've got 10 minutes. I'm going to shorten it to 7 minutes.
I think it's
Probably
even
won't even
shorter
need
than that. We may be a 1-minute item. It's dropped. The shoe has dropped. The other shoe has dropped. The PBM RFP is out there. It's gone. We had interviewed and Blue Cross as well.
Wait, I'm
And
sorry,
now-
Paul, Mark, you just cut out. Just go back. The shoe is dropped. The RFP is out there.
It's out there to the parties that we interviewed, and Blue Cross is also a party now to the RFP proposal, and Remedy is navigating it. Bobby Joe, anything else that's of import?
I don't think so. We have not got any feedback yet, so this is the most we have.
What's the timing on this?
I think Remedy gave them till, is it October for the sometime in October for the results for the RFP documents to be submitted, something in that neighborhood.
Yeah. We still have a few more weeks, and then they have to analyze everything they got in, which will
Right.
take them quite a bit of time. So we don't expect to really have, I mean, I think we'll have a better update in October, but we probably won't have a meaningful update until the December meeting.
Okay. Questions, comments from board members? Well done. All right, thank you. All right, next item, discuss hiring a consultant, and this is really around the plan redesign. Who wants to lead the discussion on this? So I know we've got a committee, Suzanne and Cheryl and Mark and Bobby Joe.
Well,
Suzanne
we
and
did-
Cheryl, do you want to say something?
Well, we did meet, I don't know, when was it? Maybe a few weeks ago. And the substance of our meeting in general was coming up with some guiding principles. That was the day you were leaving to go on vacation, Cheryl, as I remember. So whenever that was. And we did have some preliminary discussions, and we left it up to Mark and Bobby Joe to come back to us with some more information about who consultants might be and for the board to consider that. I think that's about it. Maybe you'd like to add, Cheryl?
No,
So from the management team side of things, and I want to thank Cheryl and Suzanne for letting Bobby Joe and I join those conversations. They were very helpful. We have 4 potential consultants on the table for consideration. We have not formally interviewed any of them. Just sort of reached out to them to see if they would have an interest in this kind of work. They all do. So obviously, because we haven't interviewed any and don't yet have board sanction to actually hire one, that's where we are at present. So I think the next part of this conversation is, do we move forward with a formal interview process and get rate quotes and come back to the board with a proposal to hire a consultant? It's my position that I think the kinds of things we're talking about with plan design this round require a level of expertise that's certainly greater than what the management team possesses. And I think historically has not been within Blue Cross's wheelhouse and might in fact be considered a threat to Blue Cross's traditional business model. So having someone on the outside to come in, take a hard look at our data, work with the management team and with the board, give us a sense of what's happening in the marketplace that's innovative and successful. That seems like a good approach to follow. But before we can get there, obviously, we're going to need board sanction, and we're going to need to start interviewing these folks and see if they would be a good partner. Bobby Joe?
I would ask that the board give us permission to move forward with, having a more formal interview process, asking for specific quotes. It's kind of hard because right now it's not super clear on what we're asking them to do. So I think, we'll need to nail that down as well. Are we asking them to create new plan designs or to give us quotes on the savings that we could find on different programs? So we have to kind of get more specific on that. And then if you want us to bring all of them, two of them to the board in October, for the board to make that decision on who to hire, we can do that. I assume that the board is going to want to choose the best fitting, and the best. Do you agree with that, Mark?
Yes, you cut out there just at the very end of your last statement.
Oh, sorry. Just finding the best value and the best consultant to do the work.
Absolutely, yeah.
Comments or questions from board members? Cheryl.
So I think we should share the guiding principles and objectives that the committee came up with. I think we should share that with the full board. And the other thing I think we have to come to some agreement on is when we would need to have the information back from these consultants so that it provides any meaningful guidance to us in terms of plan redesign, given that the commissioners are beginning negotiations on the new plans in April of 26. So basically, I don't know, how many months from now is that? 7 months? About 7, 8 months. If they can't meet the timeline that gives us enough time to use the information to do anything meaningful with it, I don't think it's worth spending the money. So I think we have to agree on, I think as part of the interview process is not only what it is that we're asking them to do, but when we would need to have that information by, because if they can't meet the timeline, I'm not sure it's worth moving forward with it. That would be, I would like to be able to move forward with it, but I just don't want to waste money if we can't get it in time.
Thanks, Cheryl. Lance?
Yeah, I had a timeline question as well. Do we have any idea how long it would take to interview people and get that information back to us so that we can make a decision on that?
We don't have a clear sense. I mean, next week is September 8th. So I started working on a document and sent it over to Bobby, Joe, and John about what I thought a consultant would like to know about us and where we stand at present. But that's more of sort of context and background. In terms of the kind of questions we would want to ask, to Bobby Joe's point, what will we be asking them to do? What's the scope of the work? That's something the management team would have to jump on pretty quickly. Let's assume that we could set up interviews for the last part of September. We could then potentially be in a position to make a recommendation to the board in October with a firm cost estimate. I'm sort of spinning a little bit here because we haven't talked about this in a formal way with the management team. Bobby, Joe, and John, I don't know if that rough timeline makes sense to you, but it clearly what is going to happen if we do this is we're going to have to jump on it pretty quickly.
So yeah, so I think that would make sense for me. And also, Mike had mentioned that we may have to have a November meeting anyway. So even if it went a little beyond and we got into if we had a special meeting in November, we could add this to the to the agenda as well. And one thing that I'm just barely thought of this, so it's not like a a thought that's been thought through a lot. It's just a kind of a random thought, I guess, is that when we're going to this plan redesign, and it's completely independent of the negotiations that will be taking place. So I don't feel beholden to having things done before negotiations necessarily. What I want to do is I want to have plan redesign as its own entity that we're going to do a really good job with, and we're going to do a very thorough job, and we're going to come up with these plans. If we can do that before they get into negotiations, great. If we can't, they're going to negotiate with whatever plans we have right now. And so I haven't really thought this through, but that's an initial thought of mine, in regards to negotiations, because one thing is, to me, the negotiations that take place are completely independent of what we're doing. We're not involved in the negotiations. That's their thing. Our thing is a plan redesign. That's what I want to be focused on.
So I'm gonna put forward, I think, a different position than that, Lance, with all respect, right? That, to me, we're not totally independent of the negotiations and that commission. Because remember, they came to us and said, they had an ask for us. Their ask was to reduce to 2 plans. But they also, they had asked, I think that it's okay for us to coordinate with them and communicate with them. And not be totally independent, because their negotiation is based on our plans. From the outside, from all of our stakeholders and our members, it's all related. What the plans look like and how those costs are shared. So I want this plan. I'm with you. I want the plan redesign to be done right? Because I'm assuming they were going to be in place for years. So I don't want to push to hit a timeline and do a slapdash job. But I do think that we have to be mindful and even coordinate with the commission. So when it comes to that, hey, we want to start negotiating in April, I think it's okay for us to coordinate with them and say, here's our timeline for plan redesign, and how does that fit with your timeline for negotiation? Lisa, I saw your hand up first.
I guess my point would be, I agree that the timelines are tricky. I think regardless, a consultant is important. Even if we were not to complete the outline of new plans, to have a consultant on board now is getting ahead of the game a little bit, because at some point we're going to have to reintroduce new plans. And we can work within what we have. Obviously, we could maybe reduce plans. There's some that aren't used a lot, but I think that a consultant is not wasting money. I think actually it allows us to really move beyond what we're currently doing.
Cheryl?
I don't think a consultant wastes money unless they can't provide meaningful information in time for the commissioner's negotiation. And the plans are specifically mentioned in the collective bargaining agreement. It specifically mentions gold CDHP, silver CDHP, gold, and platinum. So those 4 plans are specifically mentioned in the agreement. So I don't know how they can negotiate on plans that they don't know what the plans are. I think I really have a hard time understanding how they could possibly negotiate, because the whole point of the negotiation is looking at those plans and how much they cost, how much is it costing employees, how much is the plan costing employers, decisions about HRAs and HSAs and how they work with the plans. And I don't possibly see how they can negotiate those things if they don't have the plans. If they're negotiating based on our old plan or our existing plans, that completely could be different than the new plans. And so I'm agree that a consultant would be very helpful. I'm just so concerned about the timeline. So I can't agree to use a consultant until we have agreement on when we would need to have that information by. I think that's a critical piece on the consultant decision. And I think we need, as a board, need to have a decision about when we need that information by in order to make the decision on choosing a consultant. Again, if they can't meet the timeline, if they say they're going to need, 9 months or whatever, I have no idea, then is that really useful to us at that point? And so I do think we need to come to agreement on when we need the information by.
Thank you, Cheryl. Bobby Joe?
I do have a timeline that I've like.
Oh,
It's a
say
little-
we heard, I do have a timeline.
that I created. Very pretty. But I think you're right, Mike, that we need to be engaged with the commission so they know what we're doing. Because if they know we're working on benefits, if they know we're working on trying to change a plan for 28, 29, 30, whatever date we end up with, they can do their negotiations to fit in that timeline. So maybe they only do a 1-year contract. Maybe they do a 2-year contract instead of a 3-year contract. So I think we can get there. And Cheryl, maybe we just don't. Part of what Mark and I and the management team will be doing is working with these different vendors or consultants to see what they think a timeline would look like, because some of these things might be staged approaches. We may not change everything in one big bang. We might do some things more staged. It could be, so there's a lot of different things. So let me just show you my timeline that I have, see if that's helpful at all.
Please.
It's never going to line up perfectly, unfortunately. You see that okay?
Yep.
So if we're looking at the FY 27, for example, if we go back over, the decision for the rates that we're about to file, this all happened, way back when. Well, actually, no, sorry, for 26. So, the decision for 26 and 27 was done in April of 24. The decision for 23 through 25 was made in 21. So the stuff is done, really far in advance. So if you look at what we're about to do for 27, which is here, that's going to be, so the decision they made in 24 was for calendar year 26, for 25 and 26. And I think for 27, yeah, and for 27 as well. So we are doing part of it calendar year and part of it is fiscal year. So that's kind of part of the issue. But the 28th that's coming up, bargaining begins in April of 26. But these 3 years, it could be just 1 year or it could be, 2 years. It really kind of depends on what they decide. Let's see. So the bargaining will begin in April, last best offers in July or August, and then arbitrator's decision in December, assuming we get there. Great, but the rates are filed in October. Rates are approved in January, and these rates don't go into effect until next July. So there's a lot of different things happening at the same time or overlapping. So just to kind of give you an idea of why it's not easy to line these up, this is why. And Blue Cross would need this, if we were to make changes within our Blue Cross plan for this upcoming filing, they would need to know in, by June of 26, which I don't have in there.
Okay. Thank you, Bobby
So,
Joe. I just
yeah.
want to be mindful of time. Andrew?
Yeah, real quick. So we're at a point where we don't even know what these timelines would look like based on what I just heard from Bobby Joe. And so really what you need is a motion to be able to have these conversations more in depth before, but we're not going to be purchasing anything, or we're just getting more information.
Correct. So thinking about it, I think what I like is I think what we asked for is a motion to authorize the committee to vet consultants and come back with either a single recommendation or multiple candidates for review.
So
We'll
moved.
move. Second, I'll do the second, Andy. You can
There we
have that.
go. All in, any discussion? Oh, Suzanne,
Who's the committee?
you and Cheryl and Mark and Bobby Joe.
Okay, because I was thinking, who are we voting on?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
it's-
I'm
if
sorry.
it's me,
I didn't say
no.
the plan redesign committee
Okay,
to vet and come back with a recommendation or multiple candidates for
for our
selection.
October meeting, which is when?
the motion doesn't say a timeline. I don't think we should give you
Okay.
guys a timeline. I trust you guys to do it. So any other discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. It's unanimous.
My
then-
husband just laughed at me.
And then who is it? It's you. Cheryl, you had,
Yeah, can we just look at the timeline again?
well,
Bobby?
sorry, I want to do a second motion. The second motion would be to authorize Lance and I to have a conversation with the commission chairs to talk about timeline.
Be helpful. So moved.
Cheryl's going to make that motion. Suzanne seconds it. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay.
Did we vote on the original one? I didn't.
Which, which originally to authorize the committee to do
Yeah.
the vetting?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It was really
Unanimous.
quick. Lance and Andrew were.
Well, I knew they made the motion. I just wasn't sure if we actually got a vote in there.
We did get a vote. All right. With that, we're pretty close to the end of the top of the hour. Thank you all. Thank you again, Suzanne and Mark and Bobby Joe and Cheryl for working this. I know it's super important and hard. All right. Topics for next meeting. What I've recorded, oh, cute doggies is topic number 1. Oh my God, that thing is adorbs. All right.
I just want to give everybody a feel good moment.
I was hoping
What's-
there was a price tag on it.
What's their name? I hope they have a cute name.
Comes with
His
a new
name is
benefit design
Max.
package.
Max?
His name is Max.
Okay, good.
Okay, my Great Dane's dog name is Max. That seems more fitting.
Chris, you had something quick?
Yeah, on the next meeting topics.
Yeah. So what I had was, should we revisit the RFI for Blue Cross Blue Shield ASO contract? An update on plan redesign, including consultant hiring, timeline, reviewing the guiding principles. We've got stuff that is the Blue Cross Blue Shield UVMMC settlement. I'm just assuming we're having an October meeting. We've got financial reports, management update, the NEA update, board officer elections and reorganization after the annual meeting.
I think
And then our rate
that's not
discussion.
October though. I think that's in December. That should be December.
Because the annual
annual
meeting
meeting's
isn't until
Very late this year. It's like
Okay.
October 29th or 30th.
Okay, so we'll push that. And then right, that's the 30th. Thank you. And then obviously setting the rates for health and dental and accepting the year-end financials and audit findings, hopefully.
We also talked about at some point when we were having the discussion about October 30th at not Lake Moore anymore, but that meeting, but also having something after the rates are set, like a Zoom for everybody.
Yes, yes, thank you. Information
forum.
session.
Yeah, member
Yeah.
forum of some kind.
Member forum. Forum after setting rates. Yeah, especially knowing what we're preparing to do. It's going to be a bitter pill to swallow, and we want to make sure we explain. Chris, what else did you have for next?
So one thing was the auditors. Are we thinking we'll have them come to the October meeting?
That's been the practice, right?
Yeah. Okay. And the other thing that I had a while ago, you had asked me about reaching out and finding out about some investment consulting.
Yeah.
And I have some items to bring. A proposal from a firm, a quote. So I don't know if you want that on the October agenda or the December agenda. I just wanted to let you know that I am ready to present some information.
Great. I'll put on our list, and then management team and Lance and I will review.
Okay.
Great. Any last comments? Thank you all for taking time out for this additional meeting. Have a great weekend. Can I have a jeez.
To adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Thank you,
A
Lance.
second it.
Thank you, Lisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, who's opposed? Nobody.
Yeah.
Meeting is adjourned, 11 o'clock.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
you.
Thank y'all.
Aye.
Bye-bye.